back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. All of our interviews, all of our conversations can be found out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere you are. We are getting ready to head out to Canton, Ohio for all things Ray Lewis. I have already represented Chapter 4 from Purple Rain 1, written back in 2001. I've got all sorts of Ray Lewis stuff you'll be hearing on the air, interviews with teammates, catchings up with Ravens alums and all that stuff. But in the meantime, they are playing some football out in Canton, Ohio next week, and Lamar Jackson's going to be flicking it around against the Chicago Bears. This guy was there when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup. I did a little term with him over at ABC and WMAR2, and he's going to come on now and talk a little bit of football with us. We welcome Shawn Stepner from the sports department at WMAR, where I was once an intern on York Road. He is Stepner, WMAR, out on Twitter and out in Owings Mills, and you know, this has come around right at the right time. I've told people all year long, Shawn, like the Stanley Cup thing lasted forever, and then that ended right in time for the Orioles to begin their trading thing, and now that's ended right in time for like football, which we hope would sustain us through at least December with some hope around here of a championship. And part of that really is Joe Flacco looks really good right now, and I think everybody should be buoyed by that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me on, Nestor. And before we get going, I mean, so the championship, the Stanley Cup championship thing, that feeling ended for you? Because for me, it hasn't. You know, I still randomly think about it
from
time to time. And
I still have the hat here. It's
it's going to last for a while, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
I'm wearing my Brigade hat right now because they're playing in the Arena Bowl this week. So it's Baltimore, right. Washington, and they've been a sponsor this year. So I want to make sure I give some love to the Brigade. But I will wear my Stanley Cup hat again soon. I promise. If you see me walking through the harbor, I'm wearing my Stanley Cup hat because if not now, then when? Right?
Ted Leonsis is guaranteed another league championship because he owns the Valor and the Brigade. So I guess it's good to be Ted Leonsis nowadays. But
it's good to own 50% of the league, right? Exactly.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But back to the Ravens. Yeah, it's there's a buzz. There's an energy. You can tell when you're out in Owings Mills at the facility, not only because of what's on the field, but what's around the field. The fans are back. The bleachers are back. The clapping and the cheers and the oohs and the ahs are back. It's really a different scene here in Owings Mills. That's where I am right now. Than it has been really in 2 years. Last year, actually, there weren't any fans and there wasn't any Joe Flacco to begin camp. Really, he wasn't really practicing a lot coming off his injury, and he had a back injury. So, there's really a different kind of feel, and it starts under center. Joe Flacco knows that he has to get with it. Not that he wasn't before, but he knows that he has to perform to last in this league as a starting quarterback, and he looks really good. And so does Lamar Jackson. And I think we're going to see a lot of them this upcoming season, both on separate snaps and together on the field.
Well, let's put a spotlight, I think, on preseason where, like, I want to know what number Crabtree's wearing, right? And I want to know who's what. Now, Skurr's going to play center. What number is he again? And, you know, who's the Snead kid and the Hayden Hurst guy and the soft tissue? And, you know, look, day by day, it's just really long. It feels like 7 weeks is a long time before we see Buffalo. And there's going to be injuries. There's going to be interceptions. There's going to be touchdowns. There's going to be judgments made and all that stuff. But it's a really long camp, and I think it's going to play out to be as such. It already feels long, and we're not even into July, and we still have a ways to go before we even get to that thing out in Canton next week.
On the positive tip, though, I think for the first time in a while, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the preseason really matters more this year than it has in a while, right? I mean, there's a lot at play, and we're going back to Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson, but there is a completely new receiving core, and that's what all the guys are saying, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But the longer the camp, they're going to try and look at it as a pro rather than a con. The pro being you have those extra snaps, that extra time to get rhythm, to get chemistry. I mean, I'm a big believer in you really form chemistry when the whistles blow and you're between the lines and you're really playing a game. But that extra time throwing in practice can't hurt, right? I mean, they're gonna develop something that they wouldn't if they weren't practicing. So that's a given.
And they don't practice enough. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's
right.
Part of Harbaugh's rub with things that go on in the offseason is you really don't get a chance to work together. So there really was some excitement out there last week when this thing got together because, a lot of these guys don't know each other well, and the extended part of this camp probably is a good thing from that perspective, but a bad thing if we start getting guys medevaced out of there,
Yeah, but I do like the way that Coach Harbaugh and his coaching staff is planning. They are planning this training camp. The first couple weeks, they're going to be easing the veterans back in. And, look, Joe Flacco, Terrell Suggs, Michael Crabtree, even Willie Snead. These guys know their bodies. They know football. They know NFL football. They don't need to be out there for a full practice, every single practice at training camp. They're good. So I like how they did recognize that the veterans don't need to be out there for 7-on-7, 11-on-11 for the first maybe couple weeks. They're going to ease back, and eventually they'll ramp it up, with time to get going for maybe the middle of the preseason games, middle of the preseason schedule, and going to the regular season.
He is Shawn Stepner. He does all things sports at WMAR. He is Stepner, WMAR, out on Twitter as well, doing the football thing, doing the Owings Mills thing. I want to give this to you because I like the young people around here because you're sort of fresh to this and, all the Westminster ghost and for the fan base and people that have gone out there. I was not a bleeding heart for Westminster. I know what it represented. I know what the locker room experience was there for the players and the hydration and the water and the hotel at the end of the field and all that stuff. And I went up there and got the peach pancakes. I loved it all, right? I mean, I really did. But there's a part now where they have this thing where it is. And look, Luke's a little jaded because he's been doing this 10 years and I talked to him. But for a guy like you, to drive out there and cover this and see it evolve in the new building where you haven't been going to that building for 2 decades like I have, it's a nice little experience if you have a golden ticket for Willy Wonka to go out there and watch a practice on a Tuesday afternoon. It's a really neat little thing they've done, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the fans are they're treated great when they come out here. This training camp really is unlike a lot that goes on around the league. I mean, training camps are open, but this facility, the way that they have renovated this place, the millions of dollars that they put into it, it's not only for the fans, it's also a recruiting tool for potential free agents. This facility has to be top 3 to top 5 in the league. I don't know if there's another facility better. I mean, I've only been to a handful, but I know I used to work in Buffalo for almost 9 years. For 9 seasons is definitely better than the Bills. And I've talked to a bunch of national writers that come out here and ask them, where does this facility rank? And all of them say it's right up there with the top. So, but getting back to that golden ticket, if you're able to come out here, it's great. I mean, the first practice of training camp, I was talking to a few fans, and a couple of them said that last year they were here, or not last year, the last time they had training camp, a couple of years ago, they were out here and they were sitting in the bleachers, but they weren't covered. So they were sweating and they were hot and they had to walk all over the place to get to see things. And this year they're covered and there's more amenities and fans are flocking here. No pun intended, but, yeah, it's really a great experience. And I did, I worked in Hagerstown, for what was WHAG at the time back 04 to 07, and I did get down to McDaniel, and it was different. It was a lot different, and I think gone are the days. I think a few teams still do it. But gone are the days that most of the teams in the NFL pack up and they go to the dorms and they stay and they kind of bunk together for a few weeks of training camp. I think that those days are should be gone. I think a lot of teams have moved away from that. The technology has changed. The millions of dollars that these athletes are earning, has changed. They don't need to go sleep in a dorm room on a twin bed or two twin beds pushed together anymore. They're comfortable in their home. They're comfortable coming to a facility. Definitely comfortable coming to Owings Mills in this facility. But
well, it's better for football. I mean, just everything they've done about it. It's taken a little bit of time, and I think Steve was very sensitive to the criticism about it. I know he was because he liked the Westminster thing, and the organization sort of fought back on that and said it's not good for the players. It's not good for football. When it got crowded in Westminster, it was too crowded. The manageable part of this is a really nice experience, and I don't know that they could promise you that. And look, it's a shame the stadium thing got washed out on Saturday night too. So that's part of it too, is having access to the team. But I think the team has made great strides to try to have access. That if a fan really wants to come out and see a practice, they're going to have some kind of an opportunity to do that.
No doubt, a lot of these renovations were with the Baltimore Ravens fans in mind. And there are, like I said, this year, a lot of smiling faces, a lot of clapping, a lot of oohs and ahs to the first few days of training camp.
All right, man. So you did the Yusniel Diaz beat over the weekend. I saw that on Twitter. So you're the first guy I've talked to who's talked to him. So let's go at this Machado trade and this Oriole breakdown. And obviously, Britton, Jones, Brock, Showalter and Duquette at the end of the year. I've been writing these Dear Orioles letters. But you're covering this from the inside. This is a fascinating breakdown of a franchise, and I don't know where they're going to get back up on their knees and walk again, but this Diaz kid is, part one. We're going to be watching him, that's for sure.
Well, let me start with this. I think that, I was on that conference call with Dan Duquette the night Manny got traded, and I think that, look, we can go, revisionist history, we can go back and say they should have signed Manny, That didn't happen. They did the right thing by dealing him, and they have done the right thing on that conference call by recognizing that they are rebuilding. They are telling the fan base that they are rebuilding. They are selling off veterans, getting prospects, and they are going to do this. I think I heard Dan Duquette saying that they're not going to be competitive in 2019, and it might take 2020 as well. So they are recognizing that, and I think that's the first time we've heard that Dan Duquette saying the word rebuilding. So that's happening. I was in Bowie on Friday when Yusniel Diaz, Zach Pop, and Dean Kramer were there. Rylan Bannon was not there pregame when I was there. These prospects.
Most important thing was Gary Kendall there. That's all that really matters when I go to Bowie.
Yeah, he was.
One of my all-time favorite dudes. Shout out to Gary Kendall. Love Gary Kendall.
But Yusniel, I talked to those three prospects: Diaz, Kramer, and Pop. Let's start with Diaz. He was speaking through an interpreter, and I asked him, first of all, how he felt, and he was showed gratitude toward the Dodgers and the Orioles for acquiring him, and he's excited about the opportunity. I asked him if there's pressure, not only coming over as part of the Manny deal, but being the centerpiece. Everybody's talking about Yusniel Diaz as the key to making this trade happen. And his answer, on one hand, surprised me, but on the other hand, didn't, because a lot of athletes and high caliber athletes say this. He said he was not feeling any pressure as being the main piece to this trade because his goal remains the same. His goal remains to make the major leagues. Now he wants to make it with the O's and not the Los Angeles Dodgers. He was composed. I'm telling you, I saw him take a few swings in the cage. Looked great to me. Looked every part of a top prospect coming over for a guy like Manny Machado. The rest of the guys were really good too. I think Kramer is the next best prospect, the starting pitcher who's had a phenomenal year out in the LA organization in the minor leagues. High strikeout guy. He told me he wasn't a power pitcher by any means. Those are his words. He kind of laughed it off. And he really is a finesse pitcher, and he's excited as well coming out here. And it's funny, talking to Zach Pop, who's the reliever in the deal, he said he's actually Canadian. We were talking about Adam Lowen. I don't know if you remember Adam Lowen.
I remember Adam Lowen well. Yeah, absolutely.
He was arguably the top Canadian baseball player prospect ever in Canadian baseball, but he really didn't pan out the way that the Orioles or anybody else in the majors, whatever team he was playing on, thought he would. But we were talking about him a little bit, and it actually ended up that Zach Pop grew up around Toronto, Ontario. His dad was a huge Toronto Maple Leafs fan. He grew up playing hockey, was a defenseman, and is a huge Washington Capitals fan. So now he's right down the road from where the Caps play. He said he may be thinking about getting to a Caps game down the road if he's still here when the season starts. But yeah, so all the guys that I talked to, all three guys, Pop, Kramer, and Diaz, they really are excited to be here and looking forward to their time in the O's organization.
Well, it gives us a reason to go watch the Bowie Bay Sox at this point, so I got to give Phil a call down there as well. But for you, we have not done any residue on the Stanley Cup thing. We have not discussed Barry Trotz's side door escape to the New York Islanders. For it being the aftermath of the Cup, and there's nothing better, by the way, than watching Matt Niskanen raise the Cup over some, lake in Minnesota or whatever. And it's been fun watching the Cup go around, but it is a strange offseason to not have Trotz coming back. And when they reconvene 6 weeks from now to, down at Kettler and Reardon's in charge, it's going to be a little strange. And look, the aftermath and the hat and all that stuff's been fun, but I don't love the way the organization's managed this thing.
Neither do I, and from an outsider, I don't cover the team on a day-to-day basis being here in Baltimore, but from an outsider, it looks like it was really on principle with Barry Trotz on leaving, and also that, they didn't offer him what he deserves, which is, top 5 coaching money, and he really deserves that with what he has done over the past few years here in Washington, winning the first Stanley Cup, his first Stanley Cup, and the franchise's first Stanley Cup. What he has done, bringing this collection of talent together, especially this last season. It really is a shame that he's not returning because he's a quality guy. You know that as well as anybody, Nestor. And it really is a shame. So I'm glad he landed on his feet in New York with another longtime guy in the National Hockey League in Lou Lamoriello. They're going to get the Islanders back on track pretty fast, I do believe. Those are two quality hockey guys. As for the Caps, we'll see about Todd Reardon. He's always been the guy that has been looked upon to take over the reins whenever Trotz left. It was on these terms. Coach Trotz is gone. Now it's Todd Reardon. We'll see what kind of a coach he is and if he can mesh with the other players as well as Trotz did, push all the right buttons and go from there. I want to say, who knows? We've never been in this type of situation with this franchise, especially in the Alex Ovechkin era. Are they going to be satisfied, rest on their laurels, they have this championship, or are they going to be that much more driven when they get into this season, knowing what it takes?
Well, there was nothing about it that was easy, dude, right? Maybe Trotz made it look easy or whatever, but 1 minute you're like, we couldn't do it without you, and then we're like, well, we'll try with him.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I know Trotz isn't winning the Stanley Cup with the New York Islanders. That much has been said, but when the guy's gone out and done something you've never done, and you decide to not pay him and you decide to let him walk, then whatever fate you get at this point, right?
For sure. And that, I can't blame Barry Trotz. I probably would have done the same thing. When you're disrespected like that, and, it's on principle. You can't, I don't know. It's a tough situation all around. Definitely, if you would have went back, what does that say about his kind of character and what he stands for? And, I think he made the right decision. He wasn't treated fairly in his mind, and if you can't continue to go to your profession, to go to your job every single day and put your heart and soul into it when you feel you've been disrespected like that. So I think that he recognized that. He's out. It's a new era for the Caps. Yeah,
and it's a great summer for the Ravens fans to be watching some preseason football. Certainly the dismantling of the Orioles is there. Shawn Stepner's there every night on Channel 2 and ABC 2 News. And Stepner, WMAR. You can find him out on Twitter as well. Always good seeing you out at Ravens camp. And at some point I'll get an Orioles press pass back and you might run into me at Camden Yards. I'll be the guy eating the hot dogs.
Looking forward to it, Nestor. Thanks for having me on, man.
You got it. Shawn Stepner joins us from WMAR. And, of course, you can find that and anything else around here in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. The morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox, courtesy of our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. It's always $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life at Planet Fitness. They got the lunk alarm going on there and always judgment-free, and it's a little cooler inside. Planet Fitness. Get in there, get on a treadmill, get yourself in the best shape of your life. Don't forget the Maryland Jockey Club and Laurel Racing this weekend down at Laurel Race Park. And you can find them out on our website at WNST.net with the entries each and every day, as well as in our morning newspaper that ships every morning to you. Any breaking news? Zach Britton, Adam Jones, anybody else they're going to deal? Who they going to deal next? You'll get it first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home. It is the SSV on WNST. Still some space left on our Ray Lewis bus for next weekend. You can email me on that, nasty@WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.